Alright friends, what is up? This is going to be my little Q&A vlog. I am currently home in Connecticut, my parents' house, my old childhood room, and I asked a bunch of you guys on like Twitter and Threads and Instagram and everywhere, Discord, some questions that you wanted me to answer, and I figured I would do a fun little Q&A, so let's get into it. I have the list of questions here on my phone. First question I got a few people asking me about the new Wyatt Six and some ideas for them, some feuds. I personally really like the idea that a lot of people were talking about, where they're going after like people that lie or like betray family. I think it would be really cool if they did get involved in maybe like the Judgment Day, because it does seem like Finn and Liv are kind of like scheming behind the scenes, things like that. So I really like the idea of like them kind of targeting different people who have like betrayed family or like loved ones. I also think it would be really cool if they did, like, depending on, I guess, how the bloodline thing kind of goes, if they did, like, a Wyatt Six versus, like, the bloodline, or, like, I would say Judgment Day, but they're obviously breaking up Judgment Day, so that's not gonna happen. But I would have loved to see, like, them versus the Judgment Day, like, as they were with Rhea and everything. So I would say probably, I think the bloodline would be really cool. I love, like, a faction versus faction kind of thing. So that would be really cool to see. Chelsea Green winning Money in the Bank. She is one of my, like, top choices to win the women's Money in the Bank. I said from the beginning I thought it was probably going to be Tiffany. I feel like they've definitely pulled back on Tiffany a little bit though, which I get. So I feel like Chelsea is a really, really good shot to win the women's Money in the Bank, and I think she would be a great champion. I am going to talk a little bit more about that and, like, some of her kind of talking about it, and like what she would do if she won Money in the Bank, etc. on my So What I Said that'll be coming out soon. But I would love to see Chelsea just kind of like get a shot, get a title run, like get a run doing something, get a push doing something, because she's been doing amazing work for the last couple of years now, and they really haven't given her anything super big. So I would love to see her kind of take this and run with it, because I have absolutely zero doubt in my mind she would flourish in that title run. So I'm hoping that they give her something to do with that. Okay, so somebody else, a couple different people asked for this, dream matches. So I get this question a lot, I feel like, on the podcast, especially because Johnny and I obviously watch a lot of different wrestling companies. So someone asked for just dream matches in general, any company, but then also specifically WWE and AEW. So let's kind of do this one at a time. So, WWE AEW, I feel like there's a lot of really cool matches that we'll probably never see. Off the top of my head, I would have loved to see, like, Judgment Day versus the Elite as they are now. So, like, Dom, Damian Finn, JD versus Young Bucks, Jack Perry, Okada. I just feel like that would have been a really fun feud. I think specifically for me it would be, like, the Dom and Jack thing, because now they're both heel and both kind of in, like, in a way, kind of similar characters, where they were like babyface for a long time and they finally turned heel and like their characters like fucking taken off. So I would love to see that. I think a lot of my dream matches though right now are actually in AEW, like, but AEW, so like Ospreay and MJF is like top dream match for me right now. I think they're teasing it. Might be All In, but Garcia and Swerve are also kind of involved, so I don't really know what's happening there. But that is my top dream match, like, ever right now. Mercedes and Britt Baker is another dream match of mine. I cannot wait until Britt comes back. I heard that she's potentially coming back really soon. Praying, so excited. Oh, if I want to add TNA in here, ABC versus Street Profits, I think would be a really cool matchup. I'm a big Ace Austin girly. And of course, Street Profits, I love them. So, Montez is one of my options for Money in the Bank winner. Probably not gonna happen, but would love it. So yeah, ABC Street Profits I think would be really cool. Jordynne Grace is already, like, I think TNA and WWE is, like, very possible with, like, a lot of these feuds. I'd love to see Jordynne Grace do some more matches. Like, I think her and, like, Bianca would be great. Her and Jade. Charlotte when she comes back. Like, there's a lot of options there, too. My favorite PLE, I mean, Is Mania like obvious? I don't know. I think Mania might be obvious. I think honestly my favorite pay-per-view or like PLE normally, if I like don't include Mania because like it's Mania, I usually love the Rumble, SummerSlam, or Money in the Bank. Those are typically like year over year, like typically my favorite pay-per-views of the year. So I'd have to go with one of those. When will Roman return? I want to say SummerSlam because I feel like they keep bringing in like all these new members of the Bloodline for like Solo's Bloodline. And so I'd assume like that would be leading up to like SummerSlam is when Roman comes back, and then they do like the original Bloodline versus like kind of 2.0. But Jimmy's not back yet. He's not teamed up with Jay. Jay's not even really doing anything. So I think it's getting a little muddy, a little messy. So honestly, I don't know if they have him come back at SummerSlam. Plus, his father just passed away. You know, that's awful. And I think if he maybe wants to take some extra time to like kind of be with family, I think that's fair and valid. And I think that he should do that. So I don't know if maybe that also pushes the timeline back a little bit. But I would expect that when he returns, it kind of becomes old Bloodline versus new Bloodline. And I just don't know if that's going to be SummerSlam. But I don't know if there's a big enough moment for him after that either, unless they do like Survivor Series and they have a year later more return to Survivor Series, so I guess that's possible too. But they could also just bring Roman back and kind of be like, Solo, what the fuck are you doing? And kind of thing also. Very weird. They've also thrown in the thing where Solo's like, Roman's not coming back, so it's like, it's a lot of like weird little details. So I don't know fully. I do think he'll come back during a pay-per-view. I'm just not convinced it's SummerSlam. But I do think they would have him come back probably not at an international show. So I'm thinking maybe kind of towards the end of this year, if not SummerSlam. Thoughts on Liv and Dom? Listen. Literally my favorite thing going on in wrestling right now. I'm literally so obsessed with the whole thing, the whole storyline. I've been a huge Liv Morgan fan for a really long time, and I've always said I wanted her to have a really strong title run that was better than, what was that, a year ago? I think that she won Money in the Bank and they got the title. I don't even remember. I have no concept of time. But like obviously that title reign lacked a little bit. It was not as great as everybody had hoped it would be. I still liked it, but it wasn't as great as I had thought. And so I really wanted her to have kind of another chance to do it with like good creative, good storylines, good matches. Like she's great all around. They've just never given her like good creative in my opinion. And now she's like absolutely fucking killing it. Like her acting, her character work is fucking 1,000,000 out of 10. Dom's obviously doing amazing. He's been doing amazing. So it's just like the perfect story, and there's so much going on with it. Like there's the Liv and Dom thing, and then there's Liv like kind of versus Rhea, and Dom worried about Rhea, but then also like Finn trying to help Dom. Finn and Damien kind of at odds, and then like Damien's doing his own thing, kind of being like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And there's like a whole lot going on right now. Someone said, when did you start liking Dominic? From his debut, bitch. Okay, I was here day one. I was always a big Ray fan, and I thought it was super cool when his son debuted, or like, I guess I didn't see his debut, but like when I started watching again, and he popped up, I just thought it was really fucking cool that his son was there, and he's amazing, and I love him, and he's so good, and I knew that he would be a great heel, and I was calling it for months before he actually turned. So yeah, literally, day one that I saw him, I loved Dominic. My dream career path. There's two answers to this, kind of. So, as of today, in full transparency, I am 27 years old. I don't even know what my dream job would be. I don't really have an answer for that. And I think that's something that, like, I kind of go back and forth on because I struggle with it a little bit of being like, I'm 27, like, I should have my life figured out. But just, like, with life and jobs and financials and economy and all the other bullshit of life these days, like, 27-year-olds do not have their lives put together as often as they did maybe 50 years ago. So yeah, right now I work in digital marketing, but I don't know if I'm kind of still figuring it out. Like, I would love to I definitely want to end up doing something that is not like a 9 to 5. I would really love to like kind of own my own businesses in a way. And so I don't know if that is going to end up being, you know, I'm sure content creation in some way, shape, or form will be a part of it at some point, but I obviously don't see myself doing this forever either. So I'm thinking, you know, this would be something I do for maybe the next however many years. Maybe, you know, decade or two, we'll see. If I want to pull a Randy Orton and be like, nah, 10 more years. But yeah, I'm kind of still figuring it out as I go. I think I would really love to eventually kind of own my own properties and kind of do things that way. But that's something I've kind of toyed with for a while. But as of right now, I don't really know. Answer number 2 is if I could literally do anything that I wanted to do, I would be a singer. Okay, bitch, I can't sing. I can't at all. It's not good. But that was what I always wanted to be when I grew up, and it broke my heart that I couldn't sing very well. So I can't do that. But if you're saying dream career path, that is what it would be. I would just love to be like Ariana Grande, Sabrina Carpenter up there in like fun outfits, singing fun, cute little songs. Like that would be me. That would still be me. Maybe that doesn't fit what y'all think of me, but that is still what I would be doing. My favorite show as a kid. So growing up, my favorite show was Boy Meets World. It is still like my favorite show of all time to this day. I think what I really liked about it was I loved all the characters in it. Like, there's not a character that I disliked. I think in a lot of shows, like Shameless, like, you're like, oh, I love the show, I fucking hate Debbie, right? There's no one in that show that you really hate. Like, every character kind of like, and it's a long show, so it, like, you really go from, like, middle school to college with them, and I liked that, like, you kind of go on that trajectory with them, and it's, like, you're learning things, like, you know, they're learning, like, life skills and stuff, like they're growing up and like learning like lessons and whatever, but it's not super cringy, and I think that's what I really liked about it. Like looking back now at like Full House and like even Girl Meets World is a little cringy sometimes, but like looking back at some of those old shows, it's like, you know, Full House when they sit down and they're like giving the lesson of like, you know, this is what you need to learn and this is what I learned today, da da da, and it's like it's a little corny. It's a little cringy when you kind of watch it back a little bit. And I think Boy Meets World was never really like that for me. But also just in general, like, some of my favorite characters of all time. Mr. Feeney. I actually had to meet Mr. Feeney, oh my god, almost 2 years ago now. It was actually the same day I met MJF, so it was quite the opposites there. But my brother and I got to go and meet Mr. Feeney, and it was a surreal experience, and I was so glad that we were able to go meet him. He is very old now, and I was very worried that I was never going to have the opportunity to meet him. So it was really crazy, but it was amazing. So how did I get into wrestling, and who did I like right off the bat? So I got into wrestling because my brother at the time was watching it. I think I was like 10 or so, 11. And my brother is 4 years younger than me, and so he was watching wrestling already, and I was literally just, like, sitting on the couch, kind of, like, watching in the living room with him, and just kind of got hooked. I kind of got just interested off the bat. My first person that I really liked was Randy Orton. Right off the bat, immediately, that was my guy. Still my guy to this day. But then Jeff came into it, and obviously once I saw Jeff, I was like, okay, that's my number one. That's my ride or die dude. So yeah, I loved the Hardys, specifically Jeff. I loved Randy. I loved The Legacy is still to this day my favorite, like, faction, stable, whatever the fuck you want to call them. To this day, nobody will ever top them. That's just, like, my childhood, like, heart and soul. So that's why, it's one of the big reasons I'm a huge Cody fan still to this day. John Morrison was also a favorite growing up. Shannon Moore was a big one when I kind of switched to TNA, when Jeff went there, so yeah. My top 5 Ariana songs. I do feel like Kayla asked this question, but I don't remember. It's so hard to pick 5, but if I were to pick 5 Ariana songs right now that are my top 5 favorites, Thank You Next is always in that list. Just Like Magic is kind of like it's a sleeper that I love, like kind of a sleeper song that's like a banger for me. But those two, I would also say Yes and iconic. Love that fucking song. Eternal Sunshine is another one that is just one of my favorite songs she's ever written. And I'm trying to think of like an older one to throw in there. Ooh, Tattooed Heart. That's one of her older albums. But I have always absolutely adored that song, so I'm going to throw that one in there to round out the 5. Dream place to live. That is something that Johnny and I have actually been talking about for a really long time. We aren't looking to move necessarily anytime soon, but for a long time I had told like family and friends that, I moved out of Connecticut to move to Ohio with Johnny, and eventually I'd move back to Connecticut, and I'm not sure that's what I want to do anymore. I don't mind visiting Connecticut, but there's just not a lot about Connecticut or my hometown that I'm a huge fan of. So I don't know if I'm doing that anymore, so it's kind of brought up the conversation of like, where do we want to be? We've talked about, I think the top 2 spots for possibilities would be either kind of outside Pittsburgh, like I don't want to be like in the city, I want to be like suburbs of Pittsburgh, or somewhere in like North Carolina. I used to go to North Carolina at least once a year growing up. We were big like NASCAR family, so we did at least a week, if not longer, in North Carolina pretty much every single year for like, I don't even know how many years. And I always just loved North Carolina, and it's kind of like that middle ground, like you're not super south, but you're definitely like not north either. So I've always loved it there, so I always thought that I would kind of end up like live in like Pittsburgh for like however many years, but like when I really settled down, like buy a house, I'd end up like somewhere in like North or South Carolina. So I think that's where I kind of want to end up, but there's also a part of me that is like, do I just want to leave the country? It's kind of going to hell, It's a lot going on. So that's also an option too, but I don't know where I'd go. I mean, I don't think I'd want to be necessarily like a big city like London or Paris or anything, but I definitely would want to be near there. But I also don't love the rain. Makes me miserable as a person. So I'd have to be somewhere where it's like not raining a lot, but we'll see. What would be my passion if not wrestling? Honestly, I think it would probably be music, which is still a passion of mine, but I think it would be like my main focus if I didn't have wrestling. I used to be so much better like a music fan than I am today. I used to be like, an artist I like has new music coming out at midnight, like I'm up till midnight listening. I'm listening at exactly 12 o'clock midnight, and I'm just not as good at that anymore. I'm actually, one of my favorite artists, Jaden Hossler, just put out an album, and it came out at midnight, like that just passed. And I was like, oh, like I want to make like a reaction video to it, so I haven't listened to it yet. It's kind of killing me because I haven't heard anything of it, and everybody's saying it's so good. But yeah, I think music is like, if I could listen to music 24/7, I probably would. Like I always love like music in the car. Music is like the only thing I do on a plane or like train or in the car, like if I'm not driving also. It's pretty much my go-to for everything. Like most of my Instagram captions are taken from like music lyrics and stuff. Concerts are like my favorite thing in the world to do, to go to. Shout out to Trav, who's coming with us to Sabrina Carpenter in September. I'm so excited. So yeah, I think if not wrestling, I think it would be sports, just like general sports also. But sports and music would probably be it. My top 5 favorite tag teams, Hardy Boys is number 1, of course. I'm trying to think through all the tag teams. Hardy Boys are number 1. I'm going to say, JD really ruins the Judgment Day for me. I just can't deal with the bobblehead thing. Jade and Bianca is definitely up there. I have loved their work together. I'm so excited for the feud eventually, but like I'm loving their work as a tag team. So Hardy Boys, Jade and Bianca. I would say Sami Zayn, KO is a great one. I love the Street Profits. I'm trying to think of like a 5th one. I'm trying to do like only ones that are today and not like in the past, but who's a good... The Usos. I'm going to go with them. They're technically still there today, just not like together, but I'm going to go with it. We're going to go with the Usos. Next question was, are you going to WrestleMania? Probably not. We spent a lot of money at WrestleMania this past year in Philly, and I've been to Vegas a few times, and although I love Vegas, it is by far the most expensive thing I've ever done in my life, by far, and I don't know if I want to deal with WWE in Las Vegas. That feels like self-sabotage, because like Vegas is already so expensive, WWE is already so expensive, like no matter where you go. I do not really want to combine those two things. But also there's a lot of other shows and things that Johnny and I are trying to accomplish this year. Like we did our WrestleMania. This year we're trying to do SummerSlam potentially. We want to do, what was the other one? Rumble's going to be in Indy. So now we're like, that would be really cool to do. And just some other traveling and stuff. So I'm just not sure if that's really kind of top of mind at this point. We also really want to go to All In next year, 2025. So that's like our main priority as far as shows go. So don't think we'll be hitting Mania this year, but we will be streaming it. So I don't think we will be hitting WrestleMania this year, but we will be streaming it. So there's that. My favorite female wrestler growing up. Honestly, there were 3 that were kind of like my favorites. I don't know if I had like one over the other. But Michelle McCool, Nikki Bella, and Maurice were my 3 girls. I've always kind of related to Nikki, like on a personal level. I always thought Michelle McCool was like a really cool, fun, badass character, so I always loved her. Still to this day, adore whenever she pops up. And then Maurice, I've always just thought she was so funny, like just like her character work and everything, her acting's amazing. But my mother hated her because I walked around the house for like 3 years going like in people's faces, and it drove my mother insane. But I loved her. So those are kind of my 3. What do the rings that I wear every day mean? So I have 2. So this first one I actually bought for myself a few years ago. It was actually right before COVID hit. But I was just out of college and kind of like just going through some hard times at that point. And the Moonstone is supposed to be like, you know, leading you in life and like balance and like patience and like growth and like mental health and things like that. And so I bought this Moonstone ring for myself. It is on my ring finger, so people did think I was engaged when I posted about it. I wasn't even dating anybody. But yeah, so I have this and I just kind of wear it every day because I think it's gorgeous, and 2, it's just like a good little like keep going and keep growing mentally, physically, all the things kind of reminder. And then this one, Johnny actually got me this past Christmas. And it's an opal ring because that is Harry's birthstone. And I had mentioned that not long before Christmas, and he went out and picked out the literal perfect ring for me. So it's Harry's birthstone. So I love that a lot. Advice to girls wanting to get into content creation. There's a few things that come to mind. First and foremost, there's no like, I don't want to say this as like, there's no gentle way to say this, but like be prepared, because content creation in any space, but like I would assume you're talking about sports and or wrestling if you're asking me, it's really, really fucking hard. It's really fucking hard to not only make the content, but constantly be coming up with like ideas and being creative. Like I am not naturally super creative. Like I kind of go in like it ebbs and flows within me. So it's just, there's also a lot more competition now, but like other people making, there's also a lot more people making content now. Whereas like when I had started, or at least I didn't know about that many content creators and stuff. So I would just say be prepared, because people are rough, people can be mean. So I would say definitely prepare yourself mentally and have a bit of a thick, tougher skin when you jump into it. And then as far as like what type of content to make, I always say there's this one big thing. There's really 2 things I want to talk about. So first and foremost, just be yourself. Like whatever you would do or say normally, like when you're like talking to like family and friends, joking around, like whatever, like that is what you should be on camera. Like be yourself. I genuinely think that is how I got such a big following so fast. I mean, I grew like basically 50K almost in a year on TikTok. Going from like, I had barely 10K. I think I had 10 or 11K. And I had grew like 40 something by the end of the year. And I was trying to grow, but it wasn't like, now I'm like really putting thought and work into my content. And back then it was like, I was just doing it for a fun fucking time. But so I would say definitely just like be yourself, be your own personality, because that's going to make you stand out from other people. And then number 2, I would say pick a few, like if you're doing wrestling or, you know, whatever, pick a few people that you kind of want to be known for. So like, for example, if something happens to Matt Riddle, everybody's going to run to my account and see like, did she react to it? Did she post about it? Or like ask me questions about it? Like that's like Dominic, Matt Riddle, Randy, Jeff Hardy, like people are going to come to me for that. So it just kind of helps kind of grow your presence in the space. If there's like certain wrestlers, or like even if it works the same as like you're doing like TV shows or like musicians or like whatever you want to make content on, if you kind of make yourself known for like a people or a team or something like more specific, because then anything that happens with those people are going to go to you for, and it's just kind of a nice way to get your presence out there. Something on my bucket list that is not wrestling related, honestly, I think it's just like traveling more, but like more like vacation style. Like we travel a lot like for shows or like to see family and stuff. I would love to just do like a week in like fucking Bora Bora, and I really want to go more out of the country, and do like, I want to go to Paris, I want to go to Italy, I want to go to like Bora Bora and like other tropical, St. Thomas, like Cancun, all those different places. I love tropical countries or like tropical places, and I haven't ever really been except for the Bahamas, where I went for spring break my senior year of college, but we really just kind of stayed at the resort for the most part. It's not always safe to travel around there by yourself anyway, so it was a little rough. But yeah, I would say traveling is probably a big one for me. And then just doing more concerts. Like I've done a few here and there, but I really just want to like kind of travel and get out more. Someone asked me if I would add predictions to my YouTube channel. This is something I was actually talking to Johnny about. I think we're going to end up doing it for pay-per-views and PLEs more so on the Triple Threat Pod channel. So make sure you go subscribe to Triple Threat Pod's YouTube if you haven't already, because we're going to be uploading sometimes we'll have bonus pods, we'll have PLE and pay-per-view reviews, and I think we're going to do some other videos, kind of the two of us, more like fun things, not just wrestling related, but we'll have wrestling videos and we'll have fun videos, and I think we're going to start adding prediction videos to that as well, so make sure that you go, subscribe to us over there. Thoughts on Raw being uncensored on Netflix? I love it. I think we're already kind of getting out of the PG era. If I remember correctly, actually Triple H said we're kind of out of it basically, or like Netflix will like 100% be when we're out of it. But I think it just makes it so much more fun than PG. I think being PG, like, it limits you a lot. It's not just like in that like you can't swear. It's like it limits a lot of like what you can do with like storylines and like character work and things like that. I think moving out of that is like the best possible thing that WWE can do. I have hated the PG, I don't hate the PG era, but I just don't like that it is PG because I do think it limits them a lot. So I'm super excited for them to go onto Netflix and finally like really just go full blast into like, I don't know, whatever the fuck is not PG. I'm so excited. Last question, 3 wrestlers that I want to have dinner with, and what's the meal? Now I do not cook, okay, so I'm unsure. But 3 wrestlers that I would want to have dinner with, I would say obviously Jeff Hardy, my guy. I think I'm going to say Jeff, I'm going to say Randy, and I think I'm going to say Mercedes. There's a lot of people I could have picked there, but I think I'm going to go with those 3. Jeff is my guy, obviously Randy's my guy. But I just think like those 3 would be really, really fun. It would be like a weird dynamic because Jeff's going to want like a sandwich, Randy's gonna want like a steak, and like I feel like Mercedes is gonna want something like really bougie. I don't know, I just think it would be a really fun dynamic. Liv would also be a good person to pick, or Dom, or Jack Perry. But I think I'm gonna go with Jeff, Randy, and Mercedes, and I think it would just be a really fun, weird mix of people. As far as the meal, I don't even know what we would all eat. Maybe I pay a little homage to Dom Dom, and we just get like chicken tendies. Ranch. We'll do something like that. That would be quite the meal. It would be quite the time. I think Mercedes would be like, I'm leaving. I'm not doing this. But yeah, thank you so much for watching my Q&A. I will do these every once in a while, so feel free to always send me like your questions or thoughts or, whatever that you want me to talk about or answer. My Said What I Said will be coming out soon, so make sure you go watch that as well. The first half will be on YouTube. Second half will be on Patreon, so make sure you go check it out. But thank you so much for watching this, and please like and subscribe.